Wiglaf runs through the square of the Duskmore settlement and heads east toward the ajar gate. There, he sees the prisoners that he had just freed and armed with short swords and daggers, surrounded by a group of 5 warriors from the settlement, and they are being held at bay. The warriors have short swords, and the prisoners are calling for help. And Wiglaf knows that he asked these men to come and be a distraction, and he is now honor bound to help them. And now it's going to be combat. Hello and welcome. I am Scrapperlock, and this is Ironsworn, Antarctica. We are in the Ironlands, on the continent of an alternate Earth's Antarctica, where it's cold but not constantly covered in ice. It is just at the beginning of the sun returning to this part of the Ironlands. Just 2 or 3 days ago, the tip of the sun began to peek its way over the horizon. I've done a little bit of work. One of the things is I decided that the people here would have some names for things. And so I decided that the day when the sun first peaks its little sliver over the horizon and we just get light, which happens approximately August 21st, in this part of the Ironlands, I'm calling Dawn a day. And the day of the last, after the last sliver of the sun at the beginning of winter on April 15th, the next day after that, when it's the first day where the sun doesn't come up over the horizon, is called Dusk Day. And then I added a couple of other days. Dim Day is the first day when night returns to the Ironlands, and Sunday is the first day when there is no night. And then Zenith Day is roughly the 23rd of December, which is halfway, is in the middle of the full sun. My guess is the Ironlanders would not have a calendar of January, February, March, and so on like this, but rather Zenith Day would maybe be the first or last day of the year. Maybe Dawn Day is the first day of the year. But they basically track it by how many days it's been since Dawn Day or until Sunday, and so on and so forth. We're going to track it by regular months because our brains work that way. That makes it a lot easier. I also made some notations. If we go in the middle of the map, which right in the South Pole, Shattered Waste and the Veiled Mountains, they get the full South Pole experience. They don't get Dim Day and Sunday and all that because all they get is Dusk Day and Dawn Day and Zenith Day. And then if we go to the coast, the Barrier Islands, the Ragged Coast, the edges of the map, that's where it doesn't become full night for the entire night. And so you get in a much shorter period of full sun. So their Dawn Day and Dusk Day are much sort of earlier and later. So it's a couple of days after Dawn Day. These people would probably call it Dawn Day plus 2, August 23rd. And we are on our delve, which we've made several bits of progress on. Now, I've made a couple of mistakes, or I forgot to do a couple of things. One of the things is I haven't been tracking the failure track. Every time you get a miss, you get 1 tick on the failure track, and every 4 ticks, as you can see here, fills in a box. Once you've got 7 or 8 or 9 boxes and you want to make a roll on the failure track, you can try to quote-unquote learn from your failures. And if you succeed on that roll, then if we look here on, where is it, learn from your failures, if you get a strong hit, you can take 3 experience, which allows you to purchase assets or upgrade your assets. And you can swear an iron vow on a new oath or take momentum or whatever. On a weak hit, you learn from your mistakes and just take 2 experience. On a miss, we've learned the wrong lessons. We still get 1 experience, but we set off on an ill-fated path. And so it is possible to gain some extra experience and learn from your failures. And I've been forgetting to track that. I went back and looked, we only had 4 misses so far, which is actually pretty good for this guy. We're going to start what I've rated as a dangerous battle at the East Gate. So let me explain why I did that. I probably shouldn't have upgraded that first battle against the 2 guards to formidable. It is normal in Ironsworn that when you're fighting multiple foes of a single rank, you rank them up to account for the fact that there's more than one of them. So that is technically correct. However, if you look at the delve that we're on, this is a dangerous delve. And a dangerous delve in the gray area before you've made any progress is only supposed to be troublesome. That doesn't mean that you only face troublesome foes, but you're much more likely to face troublesome foes like a zealot, a guard dog, or common folk. So what I probably should have had happen was 2 guard dogs find them, and they fight the guard dogs and then upgrade the guard dogs to dangerous. You're supposed to be doing dangerous in the second section, which is where we are, and then formidable in the final section. So I don't think it's necessary to sort of upgrade these guys. And the other reason I'm not going to upgrade them is that Wiglaf isn't alone. Right? He has 4 other prisoners. Now, these guys aren't great fighters, and they're not going to be able to make moves, but they're going to distract some of these guards. So Wiglaf's really only going to have to take maybe 1 or 2 guards on at a time. So I'm not going to upgrade them to formidable. I think I should have tried to do troublesome. I just had common folk find him or something, and him try to stop them from shouting the alarm in the first battle. But again, this is me kind of learning as I go, and so that's just going to happen as we go. In terms of our session notes, in the previous session, Wiglaf sent Griff back outside because Griff was wounded. So Griff's out in the woods right now, and then he entered the back door of the large hall, and there, as we delved the depths, we found an opportunity. We found 4 prisoners, 4 men who were from another settlement that we haven't named, and they were slated to become slaves and members of Kova's army. And we're going to talk about this a little bit in the next little bit before we start doing our moves. Wiglaf wanted them to help him to be a distraction, so he compelled them with a strong hit to take the weapons off of the fallen guards that he and Griff had defeated. 2 daggers, 2 short swords, 1 for each guard, and each one of the prisoners is now armed with either a short sword or a dagger, and they headed for the East Gate, which is at the top of the map. So just quickly to explain this, right? It's hard to orient yourself. South is the shattered waste, and north is the edge of the map. And so if we're in somewhere like where we are here, where Wiglaf is, if north is to the left, then going up is east, and going down is west, even though going up is also kind of north, right? Because you're going sort of around in a circle like a clock. So going clockwise is east, and going counterclockwise is west. So they're heading to the East Gate. Back to the session notes. So they created a disturbance at the East Gate, which allowed Wiglaf to secure an advantage. We got a strong hit that gave us some extra momentum. And then we delved the depths, and we left the large hall out into the town square. We got another strong hit, and we got an opportunity. And that opportunity was to know where Sabine's family is being held. He was told they were held in the temple by the prisoners, and he was able to see over the low buildings. Most of these are just 1- and 2-story homes, shops, etc. in this. It's just a settlement, right? It's not a big, giant city. But over the roofs of them, he sees a spire going up in the sky that is a monument to the god of this temple, and we'll talk about that in a moment. So he knows where he's going. But then, so he ended up near a workshop, and he was trying to go past there. We delved the depths again, but we got a miss, and the reveal, or a weak hit, and we got a miss, and that miss was to reveal a danger, and the danger was that he was faced with a tough choice, and that tough choice was to go forward while the distraction is going on, while he's hearing that the people he freed are now in trouble in a fight at the guard gate, and they're calling for help. And Wiglaf was not going to leave them. So even though he really wants to go and find Sabine's family, he's not going to leave these guys high and dry. So he delved the depths, and we got a weak hit. And so there were 5 guards. That's the danger we revealed, armed with axes, fighting these prisoners who have, 2 of them have short swords, but 2 of them only have knives, just daggers, which is not a good weapon to use against the axes. Additionally, I've decided these warriors have leather armor, so it's going to be hard for the daggers to do a lot of damage through that leather armor, especially since these prisoners are not necessarily trained fighters. Before we do any more, I did some work with the oracles, and you may notice another tab. There's another tab here called Religion. So if we go back to the Ironlands page and we look at the religion world truth, it says that a few Ironlanders still make signs and mumble prayers out of habit or tradition, but most of them believe the gods abandoned us long ago. So there isn't a lot of organized religion, and yet there is a temple, which I think I just made off the top of my head, having kind of forgotten about this. But as I thought about it, I said, well, I don't want to retcon it. I hate to retcon things. Maybe this is something unique. This is weird. Wiglaf may have never seen a temple before. He knows what one is. But why did these guys have a temple when most of the Ironlanders don't really worship in an organized way. And I started thinking about Kova and the fact that Kova is raising an army and trying to conquer around him. And I thought maybe he's not doing this for himself. Maybe he believes that he's doing this as like a crusader for some sort of a god. And then I said, well, I'm going to have to make up a god now. So I created a new section called Gods of the Ironlands, and I ended up with a god named Angus. And I got this from a list of Celtic names from Xanathar's Guide to Everything. I felt like, well, first of all, I think I need more names because there are only 200 Ironlander names, and that may sound like a lot, but we've already randomly selected 7 or 8 in our playthrough so far. And there are 9, something like that. And I've only done 3 or 4 sessions, right? So, that suggests that long before this campaign is over, we're going to run out of names. So Xanathar's Guide has 200 more names for me. So I rolled on the Celtic because it's different from the Ironlander names, and I wanted a slightly different name. And then I rolled under the action and theme, and I rolled a couple of times because the first few I came up with didn't make any sense, but I got decay. So I thought, okay, this is a god of death, decay, and endings. I randomly rolled that it's a male god. His symbol is a worm-infested skull, which I found a picture of on the internet. It looks pretty good. His season, each god is going to have like some sort of a season or a time of year. His season is autumn because things are dying. His holy day is Dusk Day. That's when I first came up with this, the final day of the sun. And his time of day is dusk or twilight. So we're in the time of day that he would be powerful. And then I randomly rolled, and I said that it was almost... it was very unlikely. What is that on the Oracle? It was almost certain that he was a new world god, an Ironland god, and I rolled a 10. So this is an old world god that is being worshipped. So if you go back to Angus, he's the god of endings and death and decay, and his worshippers revere the endings of things and revel in the fact that all things come to an end. They like it when things come to an end. They're not necessarily suicidal. They're not really out to just kill themselves, but their overarching goal is to bring about the end of the world, Armageddon, right? Apocalypse. And so they greatly anticipate the end of the world, and they try to hasten it. And so, in fact, they revel in the idea of this cataclysm that ended the old world, essentially, and they would like to see that cataclysm brought to the Ironlands and end the Ironlands, because that would mean that their god is transcendent. So, by happy coincidence, the setting we're in is called, the settlement we're in is called Dusk Moor, right? Dusk being darkness. So I feel like this was a town founded by some zealots for Angus, and then Kova showed up, and he's a chieftain, and somehow or other either he was one of them and rose, or they corrupted him or mesmerized him or whatever and got him into their cult. And so what's happening? Those prisoners were going to be attempted to be initiated into the death cult and part of this army of death worshippers, and the Sabine's family, possibly others, are going to be sacrificed. So they're in the temple awaiting sacrifice, and that means that Wiglaf doesn't have a huge amount of time, but he doesn't really know this yet. He doesn't recognize the symbol of Angus or any of this yet. So we're in the middle of this battle at the East Gate, and the first thing we're going to have to do is enter the fray. So hopefully that was a good recap. Took me a lot longer to recap it than I thought. All of that work that I did with the oracles, I did off screen, and I'm going to try to do off screen as much as possible, those kinds of things, because I don't think it's necessarily interesting to just watch me trying to roll for that. And I'm also going to try to pause as much as possible so you guys don't have to wait while I think up stuff. But sometimes you just kind of have to think stuff up, and I don't always realize how long it's going to take me. So we'll just have to see how it goes. So we have 4 health, 6 momentum is not bad, and now we're going to go and enter combat. And one of the things I want to try to remember is use the oracles for action, method, and target for seeing what the bad guys are going to do, especially since we have alternative targets right now. So the first thing we're going to do is enter the fray, and we don't have any bonuses on this, so we're just going to roll, and we're rolling plus heart, right? Because we're using courage, we're facing off against them, we're not sneaking up, we're not being ambushed. So we're going to roll plus heart. So this is our best stat, +4, and we roll, and we get a 4 on our die, which is an 8 total against a 1 and a 6, so it is a strong hit. So Wiglaf appears, these guys have their backs to him, and Wiglaf says, "Unhand them, you knaves!" And he comes forward with his shield and his spear in his hand, and one of the guys turns to him and curses in Ironlander and says, there's a guy, there's somebody else here, they have help. And so we have entered the fray, and we get +2 momentum, which is awesome. So go back to our player character. We now have 8 momentum. That is really good because we can now zero out anything 7 and below. And so we have a very good chance of preventing a miss at the worst possible time. So we've entered the fray, and because we got a strong hit, we have initiative, which means that we can make the strike move. So Wiglaf comes in, and this the one guard turns to face him, but he's wrong-footed, right? And he kind of stumbles back a little bit, and Wiglaf moves forward, holding his spear up over his head, and he thrusts it forward and says, "You won't get away with this. Let them go." And he heaves his spear forward with an attempt to strike. So we don't have any bonuses from our skirmisher talent yet, because all that does is in that asset is when we face danger. But we definitely want to keep that in mind if we have to face danger, which I'm sure we will. So we are rolling we're attacking in close quarters. He's not like throwing the spear. He's running up and stabbing and thrusting with the spear. So we're rolling plus iron, which is +3. And we get a 5 on our action die, which is great. That gives us an 8 total. Against an 8 and a 1, it's not a strong hit, it's a weak hit. So we inflict our harm, but we lose the initiative. So I think what happens here is Wiglaf, oops, dropped the dice. Wiglaf runs forward and he thrusts his spear and he gouges the shoulder of this one guard, who then stumbles and falls to the ground. But one of the other ones disengages from the 2 guys, from the 4 guys that are the prisoners, and runs to take his friend's place. So now as the one guy is getting back up, the other one comes up with his sword, and he is kind of facing Wiglaf. So we've lost the initiative, but we inflicted our harm. Now Wiglaf does 2 harm, and these guys are dangerous. So if we look back at entering the fray, we inflict 2 harm per harm. So this is 4 harm. All right, so he stabbed this guy. This is pretty good. He stabbed the one guy in the shoulder, and he fell to the ground, and he's effectively out of the fight at this point because we just did 4 progress, right? So we get 2 progress per harm, right? And we inflicted 2 harm, so we get 4 progress. So if we go to our progress track, I've created a progress track here for this, and we're going to add 1, 2, 3, and 4. So another strong hit will enable us we'll have 8 progress. We might be able to end the fight right there. So these guys have initiative. We do not. So now what I want to do is go back to the combat moves here, and let's do a combat action roll and see what these guys are going to do. So we roll D100, and we get a 0-2. All right, so these guys turn to, so they have their axes at the throats of the 4 prisoners. Or 3 of them have their axes at the throats of 3 of the prisoners. One of the prisoners is kind of standing there, not sure what to do, holding a short sword. And then the other axeman is standing in front of Wiglaf, and he says, "You need to surrender, or we will kill these men." So now Wiglaf has to figure out, okay, what do I do to prevent them from killing these men? So we don't have the initiative, which means we have to either face danger or clash. I think we're going to need to face danger. Now the spear says we can face danger by holding him at bay, but I don't think that that's necessarily the kind of face danger that we're doing here. Instead, I think Wiglaf is going to have to make a a verbal response, right? He's going to have to tell the guards what to do, or tell the guards I'm not giving up, or else. Yes, I know what he's going to do. He's going to say, you think you have me at a disadvantage? No, I have you at a disadvantage. You think I'm the only one from Longhaven who came in here? There's an entire force of wardens coming through the other gate, and you guys had better give up right now. Okay, so this is a heart-based face danger. What he's trying to do is make this guy flinch. So we're going to roll at +4. And we get a 6 on our action die, best we could possibly do. 10 total against a 7 and a 4. It is a strong hit. So this guard takes a look at Wiglaf, and so we get momentum, right? He takes a look at Wiglaf, and he says, he thinks to himself, this guy can't possibly be here alone. He freed prisoners, and he's attacking us frontally. He must be right. Okay, so this guard says, bleep, bleep, curses in Ironlander, and he's like, screw this. And he grabs the guy that was wounded on the ground, takes him, and says, I'm out of here, and drags him out of the way. Right, and that gives Wiglaf initiative against the 3 other guards who now take their axes away from the prisoners, and they're not sure what to do. All right, so we got a strong hit, which gives us initiative. Okay, we didn't get any progress from that, but we got more momentum and we have initiative. So we have a strong hit. We have initiative. Should Wiglaf try to compel them? I think he should. I think Wiglaf steps forward, clangs his spear against his shield, and says, your 2 friends were smart enough to listen to me. Why don't you be smart too? Give up. There's a whole group of wardens on their way, and they're coming through the west gate. Do you want to be here and be caught by them harming prisoners? And these guys are going to then have to deal with this. So he rolls his compel, and he orders them to give up, to either flee or throw down their arms. And let's see what happens. We roll a 2 plus 4 is 6 against a 7 and a 1. That's a weak hit. So they'll do what we want. So it says as above, but they ask something in return. So, what are they going to ask? So, let's see. I think they're going to ask, I guess they'll say, all right, we'll throw down our weapons, but don't hurt us. Is that what they're going to say? I say that's likely. We get a 96, so yes. So they throw down their weapons and they say, okay, but don't hurt us. Let us go. And Wiglaf's concerned about this because letting them go is going to mean that they could alert everybody else. So he says, all right, we won't hurt you. And he says to the prisoners, you 4 guard them. And they say, well, we want to leave. And Wiglaf says, no, you 4 are going to guard them because otherwise they could raise an alarm. So he says, just take them out into the woods, and my dog is out there, and he'll help you guard them. And just stay there until I come back. And I think this is the end of the combat. We're not going to go ahead and end the fight because the fight's over. 2 of the guards ran away. The other 3 guys are captive. But he's going to have to compel these guys now. Right? So we're going to do another compel. Are they going to be willing to guard the soldiers? And we're rolling plus heart. And we get a 2 plus 4 is 6 against a 9 and a 2, so it's a weak hit. So they say okay, but they're going to ask something in return. So they say, all right, we will agree to do this, but in addition to the people you're looking for, each of us has a loved one in this temple, and you're going to need to save them too. So now Wiglaf has to save not only Sabine and those others, not only Sabine's family, but also like each one of these guys has a wife or a child in the temple. So he's got like 4 more people. So he's got like 8 people to rescue now. And Wiglaf agrees. So they take these guys out. And Wiglaf also says take their weapons. So the prisoners are now armed with axes and short swords. There's 4 of them, and they go outside, and they'll probably meet Griff out there. Griff isn't probably going to know what to make of this, but he'll probably leave them alone because he can tell the difference between the good guys and the bad guys. He's a smart dog, and he is one of our assets. So they head out, and Wiglaf shuts the gate but doesn't lock it so that nobody knows there's anything wrong. And he's got to hope. We are running against time now because the one guy took his wounded comrade and fled, probably took him to the infirmary. As soon as that happens, eventually they're going to start looking through the town for what's going on, but they're probably going to go to the east gate first. So Wiglaf has some time, and then he's going to want to leave through the west gate because those guards are out as well. So he's eliminated the guards at both gates, at least for now, but if he doesn't hurry, those guards are going to get replaced, and then he's going to have trouble. So we're actually doing okay here. We're going to say that this, if we go to the progress tracks, we're going to say that this battle just ended without death, right? Ended bloodlessly. I like keeping track of this, so this battle is over. And now we have to continue our delve. So Wiglaf is going to go back. You don't have to like re-delve the depths to go through existing areas, I don't think. I'm going to rule that you don't. I'm going to go back to the weaponsmith, and we need to delve the depths again. So now we have to try to get through here, and we do have, just to keep in mind, we have 9 momentum right now. So we're in really good shape. We can zero out anything other than a 9 or a 10. And I could have used that on the last compel, but the weak hit was enough to get what we wanted in both of those 2 compels. And so I didn't want to waste going all the way down to 2 momentum when we could use it in what might be an epic battle later or delving the depths. So now we're going to delve the depths. So Wiglaf has, so now he's in a rush. So we're going to use plus edge because he's got to get to this temple. So he's going to see if he can figure out which route on this sort of warren of streets is going to lead him to this temple of this death god. And we're rolling +3. We get another 6. This die is way better than the other die, guys. I'm still using the dark blue die. A 6 plus 4 is 10 against 7 and 2, so it's a strong hit. So we mark progress and find an opportunity. So let's go ahead and go to our progress track. No, our delve. And we mark progress, and that's 2 progress. So now anything we find in here, since we're now in the darkest region, is going to be formidable. So we're more likely to see formidable foes like the Husk or Kova. We might find him, or a large group of raiders or hunters that are going to be upgraded to formidable. But we find an opportunity. So at this point, I think we are close enough to locating our objective that we are at the temple. Now, we don't know 100% whether they're in the temple or not. That's what the prisoners told us. So this is the Temple of Death. Okay, and that is our next area. So I'm not going to roll for what the area is. We kind of know, based on our narrative, what the area is. And Wiglaf has made it there. And I've got to try to remember to stop putting him directly on the item because it's hard to click. All right, so Wiglaf arrives at the outside of the Temple of Death. So he's there. And so I feel like this is a wooden structure because they don't build with a lot of, well, maybe it's stone. It's a crudely built stone structure, made of large stones placed on top of each other. It's not like beautifully fitting together. There are some gaps and stuff. There's some wooden pillars holding up sort of a porch area, like a portico, and there are doors heading in, and then on the top there is this very tall spire, and at the top of the spire is it like a carving of a skull with worms coming out, right? This right here at the top of the spire, and it's horrifying. And Wiglaf sees this, and he doesn't even really really recognize what this is. This is very strange, and he thinks that the prisoners are in the Temple of Death, and we found an opportunity, right? So if we go to the find an opportunity move, right, we can choose, because we got a strong hit, and we gain +1 momentum. So, right, because it says if you make this move as a result of a strong hit, you can pick and either gain 1 momentum or make a move and add +1 and take a +1 momentum. I think we're going to do this. We're going to make +1 on a move because we already have a really high momentum, and I know what move we're going to make. So, so let's see. So I think the terrain favors us, and he sees a side door that he can go in, and he's going to go in the side door. Now, I'm just going to pause for a second here. I'm going to read up on what I think is going to happen, and then I'll bring you back. All right, remember, we get +1 and take +1 momentum on a hit for our next move, and I think our next move is a progress move. This is going to be to locate our objective. Okay, so we open the door and we look inside, and are the sacrificial victims that we're looking for, are they here? If they are, then we have found them. Now, on a strong hit, we've got them, right? On a weak hit, there's an unforeseen complication. They're going to be guarded, right? And maybe even Kova is here, but we'll ask the Oracle about that. And obviously on a miss, they're not here, and we're going to have to keep looking for them, or maybe they're already dead. So so we're going to locate our objective. This is a progress move, so we don't roll our action die on a progress move. I think I've done one of these before. Instead, we go to our delve, and we have 8, right? So basically anything below an 8 is good for us, and we do have, what momentum do we have here? We have 9 momentum, so we can zero out 8s. So as long as we don't roll 2 9s and 10s, we're okay, right? Of course, knock on wood, because I probably just jinxed myself. So we roll our 2 dice, and we get a 3 and a 4. Strong hit. And the result of a strong hit on locating our objective is we locate our objective and the situation favors us. We can make another move now at +1 and take +1 momentum. We also get +1 momentum on a hit. So we're going to do the next move at +1 because our momentum is 10. We are maxed, right? Because we got +1 momentum on a hit. So we got a hit with that. We located our objective, and we have completed our delve. All right, our delve is finished. So Wiglaf opens the side door, and what does he see? He sees this dark temple covered in black drapery and skulls with worms coming out of them as a mosaic on the one wall, and a gigantic altar on the opposite side from the big doors, not the side door he walked in, but the double doors. And the mosaic is behind it, and there's a horrible skull, like a skeletal statue. So it's like a skeleton wearing a robe, clutching a scythe or something, with the worms coming out of this skull face. And this is the depiction of this god of death. And tied to the altar are Sabine's wife and then and his kids, and also tied up around the room, being prepared for sacrifice, are the other prisoners. But there isn't anybody guarding it because we got a strong hit. So he runs up to them, and they at first are afraid because they think that he's one of the bad guys. But he says, "I'm here to help you." And he pulls the dagger off his belt, and he starts cutting and hacking and chopping at the bonds. And he says, "Okay, you're free now." And he says, "We've got to get out of here. I think the road to the east gate or the west gate is free. So let's go ahead." He's actually going to head them to the east gate, because he knows that that's clear right now. And either we're going to get there before reinforcements arrive, or we're not. So he gathers everybody up. He gives Sabine's wife his dagger to arm herself. He's got his shield and his spear, and he says, "Let's go." And so now what we're going to do is they're going to flee. And so one of the questions I had was, I was thinking about why haven't we encountered a lot more guards? There's like a whole army and stuff. I think the reality is that these guys are probably at war, right? In other words, they brought these prisoners back, and then most of them went back out. So what we have to hope is they don't come back before we get the prisoners out of here, right? So the town is mostly, it's night, people are asleep. There were a few guards. There are some troops in the town. There's probably a zealot. There may be a husk or a thrall. Kova might be here. But a lot of the men are in the army are out raiding another settlement, maybe raiding Longhaven again. So Wiglaf leads the way, and he says, come, everybody stay together. Adults keep the children together. And he's got now like 8 innocent people that he has to protect, and he's going to try to get them out. So now what we're going to do is, if we go to the moves, we're going to escape the depths, right? So this is sort of, we're going to zoom out. We're not going to like delve every single, we're not going to redo the delve, right? Our progress is at 8. We located our objective. We're kind of done with the actual delve. So now we're going to flee the site, and we're going to do it. We're not fighting our way out. We're going to do it quickly. We're rolling at plus edge. And remember, we have 10 momentum. So unless I roll double 10s, we should be able to get out. So let's see what happens. So we roll a 3 and a 1 against a 4 plus 3 for edge is 7. Strong hit. I love this new action die. It's doing so much better than the other one. I don't think I've rolled a single one tonight, knock on wood. So they flee, and he knows the area is clear all the way to the east gate. So if we go back to the map, they flee down the road past the weaponsmith, whose shop is closed, through the settlement square with the empty stockades. Nobody's there. To the east gate, there's still nobody there. There's a little blood on the ground. There's nobody there. He throws the gate open, says, come on. Everybody runs out. And what does he see outside as he gets out? But Griff is standing there waiting for them, and he leads them off into the woods to where the other prisoners are. And we have completed that delve. So we're done with this delve. The other thing I'm going to say is, in terms of our objective, we have now reached another milestone. And that milestone is we found Sabine's family and gotten them out of Duskmoor. Now, we still have to get back, but at least we have gotten them out of Duskmoor. And I think if we just do one successful roll, we'll kind of get them back without being chased down, because the big issue now is, are we going to be chased down? So they go out into the woods, and Wiglaf says, we're not going to go straight back to Longhaven or your other communities. We're going to go into the woods a little ways. And then they distribute the weapons so that Sabine's wife has a dagger and his oldest daughter has a dagger. The short swords go with the other prisoners, and they're going to head to the other settlement. And I think at this point, we need to name the other settlement and decide where it is. So let's create another page, and let's go to the oracles. And I'm going to pause it, and I'll figure out the name and where it is, and then I'll bring you back. All right, guys, so we're back. I came up with a settlement called Highmount, and I'm going to have to play around with this map because adding all the text this way is not working. So I'm going to edit the map in my map making software, and then this way we'll just move Wiglaf around on it. But to the south here in the mountains west of Red Hall is where this new settlement Highmount is. And Wiglaf then helped these prisoners of the town of Highmount. So because we haven't named any of the prisoners, and he doesn't like know anybody in particular, but they're going to be able to go back to the town and tell the townsfolk about it, I think it's reasonable that Wiglaf might be able to forge a bond with the community. He made sacrifices for their cause, so I think he can try to forge a bond with them. So we're going to roll plus heart and see if he can forge a bond with the community of Highmount. And we roll, this time we did a 1 on the action die, plus 4 is 5. It is a miss. I'm going to go ahead and burn momentum here and zero out both of these and make it a strong hit. So we get plus 2 momentum back. So we'll get back to a 4 momentum because we reset down to a 2 and then plus 2. So we have 4. And I burned both of those. I got rid of both of those. So we have a strong hit on our Forge a Bond. So he now has a bond with the community of Highmount. right? He says, go back to High Mount, go through the woods, be very careful as you head to the west. These guys might come back, and make sure you cover your trail. And the prisoners thank him, and the sort of leader of the prisoners, the oldest man, comes to him, and he bows to him, and he kind of shakes his hand and says, "You have made great sacrifices for us, and you rescued us, and you rescued our families and loved ones. So we very much appreciate this. And if any time any of us from High Mount can do anything for you, you just ask, and we will be happy to help you, Wiglaf of Long Haven." And he says, "I'd heard that you were a murderer, but now it seems like all those rumors are wrong." And Wiglaf says, "Yes, they were wrong. I've never killed anyone like that, right? Only these bad guys who were keeping you prisoner." And so then they go off. So we have a bond, which means if we go to our bonds, we have High Mount for rescuing 8 of its citizens from Kova. And let's go ahead and link that. And so we've done that, and we now, on our character sheet, we can mark another bond, which I will do. I'm just going to put a little check to remind myself. It's an ugly check, but yeah, I'm going to go ahead and that finishes the first square of bonds. And I also, we have, I think, completed a milestone here, so we're going to mark 2 progress. And now Wiglaf is going to lead Sabine's family back to Red Hall, where Sabine was located. So I'm going to pause it here, read up on something, and then I'll bring you back to try to see if we can wrap this up. All right, so thinking about this, I think this is a face danger. Again, we're not going that far. I don't want to undertake a journey where you have to reach multiple milestones before you get to the destination. I feel like that doesn't make any sense. So what we're going to do is we're going to face danger here, and we're trying to go quickly, but we're also trying to be quiet. I think we're trying to go quickly more than being quiet. So we're going to go through the woods and head to Long Haven and to Red Hall. And we're going to face danger with speed. He's moving with other people. Expertise and insight. We might want to be actually using our intelligence to try and avoid being caught by what might be, outriders or a patrol. So I actually think we're going to be rolling plus wits, which isn't great for us. We have our hound, but he doesn't really do any good for us to get where we're going, and he's hurt. So we're going to face danger, and I think that, obviously, if we miss, we're going to get caught. And that'll have to be resolved in the next episode. If we get a hit, then we will get to Red Hall. So we've got Sabine's family, and it's a woman and then a teenage girl and 2 children. And the woman has a dagger with her, and we've got our dog with us, and we're going to face danger. And we're using our wits to try and avoid getting caught by any outriders, patrols, or a revenge group coming out of Duskmoor. So let's see how we do. We face danger, and we roll, and we get a 3 on our action die, plus 2 is 5 against a 10 and a 1, so we get a weak hit. So this makes sense. So we go through the woods, and it takes 2 days, so it's August 25th when we get back, and we have to use our resources, right? We have to feed these kids. We don't have time to hunt or anything like that, so we'll lose 1 supply. And we have the outcast, but that only affects us when we have 0 supplies. So we are going to return and arrive at Red Hall. And that is kind of the last milestone. We have brought Sabine's family safe and sound back to Red Hall. We don't think we get any momentum from that move, right? We succeeded, but we don't get any momentum or anything like that. We did lose a supply. So some of our food got eaten by the kids. And so there we go. We have completed our first quest. And we should have succeeded. So we arrive at Red Hall. And Wiglaf throws the doors open, and he brings the battered, trail-tired wife and children in. And now we're going to try to fulfill our vow for the first time. And if it misses, then we'll see what happens. So we're going to fulfill our vow and see what happens. And we get a 10 and a 1. A 10 means it's a weak hit. So there's more to be done than we realize. We realize the truth of our quest. So I think I know what this is. So we arrive, and Sabine is thrilled, and his wife is there, and his daughter's there, and he hugs them and stuff. And they tell him, and so they tell the story, right? He describes everything that happened, and that, these other people from High Mount were there, and so on and so forth. And as they're talking about this, he describes the temple, and Nan and Owena and Sabine are like, what do you mean a temple? Like, who builds temples to the gods anymore? Well, there was this temple to this thing with a skull and the worms coming out. And as he says this, Nan sort of pales because he's older and he's heard of this before. And he says, you're talking about this god Angus, who's the god of death. You mean there's a death cult? Kova's part of a death cult. That must be what's going on. So they figure it out. And so now we have more to do, right? If we go back to our vow, it says that there's more to do. This is just the tip of the iceberg. Something else is going on here. It's not just Kova, right? There's some sort of a death cult. They built a temple, and they're making human sacrifices, and they're maybe trying to bring about another cataclysm. And so Wiglaf is going to swear another iron vow. So we've completed this one. We mark experience. This was a dangerous, so we get 1 experience for this. So we'll mark that. So we can't really use 1 experience yet. We've completed that one, and now we're going to swear an iron vow. So Wiglaf then takes his spear, and he grasps the iron head of the spear and draws it across his palm again. It hasn't even healed yet, and he draws some more blood. And he says, I vow to find out the truth of what's really going on with Kova and this death cult. So that is his vow. He's going to find out what's really going on with the death cult, and what's really behind all of this. In the meantime, since we have completed this vow, Wiglaf is going to try to, let's see if we can form a bond with Sabine, right? And if you make this move after fulfilling a vow, we can re-roll any dice. So we're going to roll plus heart. And we're +4. We roll a 3 + 4 is 7 against a 6 and a 9. I'm going to re-roll the 9, and we get another 9. So we get a weak hit. So he's going to ask something of us. Well, I mean, I guess this is all related. He's going to say, you have to stop this. So can you please see to it that you stop these people? And so I think this is all part of the same vow. So we're going to swear an iron vow to find the truth behind the death worshippers and stop Kova for good. And since Kova's a formidable foe, I think this is a formidable vow. And guys, I think that's where we're going to leave it. We have we're going to have to rest up and heal and everything. I do want to point out that I do have a custom house rule for sojourning. And sojourning is how you kind of can increase your supplies and heal up. But I also allow, if you just spend time in a community that's friendly or neutral to you, you can slowly over weeks recover. So if he wants to leave tomorrow, he's going to have to sojourn. If he's willing to wait in Red Hall for a couple of weeks and heal up, he doesn't have to do that. And I'm not sure what he's going to do, but we are on, it's now August 25th when we arrive. So I just want to mark that down so I don't forget. And hopefully you guys enjoyed this. We had our first successful delve and our first successful quest. And one of the things you have to do in Ironsworn, and hopefully I've done it right, is you're being both the GM and the player. And so sometimes I may say, look, I'm just going to let this happen, or I think this is going to work in the narrative. Maybe it's not exactly what the move says, but you know, just like as a regular GM running a game, sometimes you say, well, I'm going to allow this because that makes sense in the story, or that looks like it works. So for instance, this last two where the forging a bond and the weak hit on forging a bond and weak hit on fulfilling the vow both like sort of require you to make another iron vow. I didn't make two, right? I just said, let's just go ahead and make, you know, lump them into one vow, upgrade it to formidable. And so now we're both finding the truth behind the death worshippers and trying to stop Kova for good, so this doesn't happen anymore. I don't know that we're going to go right back to this delve. I think Wiglaf is going to want to explore. He might go to Highmount and Longhaven and see if he can talk to people and find out what the heck is going on, and maybe see if he can find out what other communities this death cult is going after, and if anybody in these communities knows anything. So don't know that we're going to go right back to a delve. We may end up back in Duskmore. So I'm going to keep this delve the way it is, and you know, the map the way it is. There's obviously much more to this town, so we can come back to this and maybe even change the denizens if we find out a little more about this place. Maybe the husks and the thralls will be even more common if this is a death cult. We'll see what happens. Hopefully you've enjoyed, and I certainly have. Until next time, I am Scrapperlock, and this has been Ironsworn Antarctica.